Hey everyone, you know what I like to do on rainy days? I like to think about what to play over a minor 7th chord, specifically the Dorian Mode. Actually, that's not true. I don't really think about that. I learned what to play over a minor 7th chord 30 years ago. But today we're going to talk about what you're going to play over a minor 7th chord. That's today on Everything Music. Hi everybody. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to deconstruct a mode into its basic units. You've heard me talk about this on one of the other episodes where I broke down a C alter dominant scale into its triads. Well, we're going to talk about the triads and 7th chords of G Dorian. Okay, a G Dorian scale. Simply the notes of F major starting on G. It's a subset of F major. It's the second mode of F major. Okay, well, how do you get a voicing to sound like a G Dorian voicing? Well, there's many different ways. You can do a standard jazz G minor 9 voicing. You can do a G minor 11 voicing. You can do a G minor 13 voicing. You could frankly do a straight G minor 7 voicing. That's kind of boring. It would work in certain cases though. But how do you actually put voicings together that sound really interesting and unique? Well, the first thing I like to do is to dissect the scale into its basic components, okay? Meaning, what are the actual chord structures within the scale? Okay, so I like to use just a fifth in the bass to give it a little bit of weight, or an octave. We'll do an octave in this case. So, the first triad, G minor. Second, G sus 4, A minor, A sus 4, B flat major, B flat Lydian, C major, C sus 4, D minor, D sus 4, E LOCRIAN, E diminished. Those are your triads in G Dorian. Here's a little example of the triads. Okay, so what do you do with these triads? I like to look for interesting characteristics within the mode to build my voicings. I look for dissonant intervals because you want to have this tension and release, even two voicings together. So there's G and D, right? Then I have an F sus 4 voicing there, right? That's one of the triads in there. Okay, and there's a B flat Lydian triad in inversion. Okay? Beautiful sound, okay? Or I could have F sus 4 with F major on top of it. The beauty of this is that major 7th interval there is what gives it its characteristic. Or I could take that and I could reverse that and go like this. Okay, why does that sound different? It's the same notes. Well, the difference is because in the middle of the voicing I've reversed the major 7th to turn it into a minor 9, and it gives it a much more forlorn, sad feel to it. Listen to the difference. Or, very subtle, but you will notice that those notes want to move together, right? That minor 9 contracts into that major 7th interval very nicely. You have E and F, right? So I could do very easily, I can use that. have that major 7th at the top, or I'll put the minor 9 at the top. That's how you really start to get these beautiful open voicings. Here's an example of some G Dorian voicings. And if you spread them out a little bit more in the across the keyboard or the orchestra, you start to get a more expanded sound. A good exercise to do is to take a voicing that you like the sound of, and you probably know this already, but to move it up each scale step. So if I take a voicing like this, then I move it up each scale step. Every note, I'm moving up a scale step each time, right? So starting here, okay, I've got a really nice spread here. A, E, F, B flat, E, right? Then I can move it up. Beautiful sound there. Move it up through the entire scale. Take any voicing that you have, even if they're really large spread voicings. Some of these sounds in the higher register are really beautiful. Now, how am I getting those sounds? It's really the combination of the intervals. I have a lot of inner voices that work together where I have these different types of dissonances. Okay, so I have first voicing. Okay, so in this one, I've got that there, that dissonance, which is creating that. Then I went to this, which is more consonant, but then I go right back to a voicing with dissonance, which is really beautiful sound. I got a couple different dissonances there. I have a compound 9th right there, and then I have the dissonance of the F and E together. Okay, so listen to these again. I'll put the bass in. One more time. So the combination of intervals in the interior part of the chord, they can be on the outside of the chord as well, but when you can hide these things in there, it's the compound intervals. It's not just the major 7ths or just the minor 2nds. I mean, you can always hear voicings like this, where you've got the 2nd and flat 3rd together. That's great. But if I do this, and I put it there, and I create a voice like that, a little bit more interesting. But if I do this, and I take that A to B flat and I put it like that, okay, it's much more of a stark, open, modern sound. Those are the kind of sounds that you want to go for. Okay, let's talk about the 7th chords in G Dorian. The first one that you'll probably know is G minor 7, right? G, B flat, D, F. Then you have G7 sus 4. Then you have A minor 7, A7 sus 4, B flat major 7, B flat Lydian major 7, C7, C7 sus 4, D minor 7, D7 sus 4, then B flat Lydian major over E to E minor 7 flat 5. These are the 7th chords in G Dorian. Here's the second etude in G Dorian. I'm using the triads, the seventh chords, and the added note chords, which we haven't even gotten to yet, talking about those. That's going to be in another episode. But these two etudes are simply to demonstrate the possibilities when you don't use any notes outside the scale. Both of these etudes only use notes from G Dorian. The etudes are made to train your ear to hear the sounds as quickly as possible because they just fly by. But you're going to be hearing all types of sounds. You're going to be hearing straight triads. You're going to be hearing Lydian major sounds. That's a B flat Lydian major sound. You might be hearing a C major and a B flat major triad just alternating one another. That would sound like this. You'll notice I'm playing it in 5-note groupings. And the reason that I'm doing that, you'll hear these fly by and you'll hear all these different type of groupings. Groupings in 3s, grouping in 5. Anytime you have odd note groupings, you have accents on in unexpected places, which makes your lines have more energy to them. But right there, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And all the lines resolve within themselves. What I want you to do, even though the things are moving by really quickly, I want you to try to identify what you're hearing as they're moving past. Thank you for watching as always. Please subscribe here or at my Everything Music Facebook page if you haven't already. Also, please check us out on Patreon at the link provided below. Patreon is a place where you can support Everything Music and help us create the best content possible for YouTube and Facebook. I'm Rick Beato.